Tonight we begin with a development that Social Security experts had feared, predicted, and been quietly tracking for months. A shift that unfolded not over years, not over a single congressional session, but in a matter of weeks. Weeks that will change how millions of retirees receive their benefits. Weeks that will alter the financial math for every American over 62. Weeks that could cost unprepared seniors hundreds, even thousands, of dollars if they don't act in time. What the Social Security Administration did this spring crossed a threshold that benefit advocates had hoped would hold through the end of the year. And when that threshold moved, America's retirees did not have the luxury of waiting. They responded, or they needed to respond, with urgency, preparation, and action. For months now, there had been signals, not press releases, not official announcements, just quiet regulatory signals, that the Social Security Administration was preparing something significant. The SSA has been methodical, yes, but they have been deliberate in that methodical approach. Their changes have followed a certain rhythm, a cadence, almost a predictability. But what set off alarm bells in Washington policy circles this spring was that the usual advance warning went silent. Advocacy groups who monitor federal benefit policy know the indicators. The gradual language shifts in SSA administrative bulletins, the quiet updates to cost of living calculation models, the changes in eligibility language buried in technical annexes, the sudden absence of public comment periods. All of that went quiet, and whenever the federal benefits machinery goes quiet before a major calendar deadline, it means something is about to get loud. May 1 is that deadline, and for America's 70 million Social Security recipients, the changes arriving on that date are not small. They are structural, they are immediate, and for many retirees, they are a financial ambush hiding in plain sight. Earlier this year, policy analysts detected what they described as a convergence of administrative changes, including a recalculation mechanism that had not been publicly revised in over a decade. These are the kinds of structural adjustments that the SSA only implements when they are signaling something very specific. A rebalancing of the benefit formula, a shift in work credit thresholds, or a change in the rules governing how and when Americans can claim. Analysts didn't know which category this fell into or whether it fell into all three at once. But what they did know was that the SSA was changing the posture of how Social Security benefits are calculated, distributed, and taxed. And when a federal entitlement program shifts posture without a robust public education campaign, even by a small technical measure, every retirement planning expert pays attention. Here are the 4 changes hitting on May 1st that every retiree must understand before that date arrives. Change number 1, the cost of living adjustment recalibration. The 2024 COLA increase of 3.2% was already less than the 8.7% seniors received in 2023. But new administrative guidance now adjusts how future COLA calculations interact with Medicare Part B premium deductions. For many recipients, the net benefit increase they expected is being partially or fully offset by rising Medicare costs before the check even hits their account. Some seniors expecting an increase in take-home benefit will see no gain at all, and some in higher Medicare premium brackets will see a net decrease. Change number 2, the earnings limit threshold adjustment. Seniors who are still working and claiming Social Security before their full retirement age face an earnings limit. In 2025, that limit has been adjusted. For every $2 earned above the threshold, $1 of benefit is withheld. The threshold has moved, and millions of working retirees who built their retirement income strategy around the old number are now in a miscalculation zone they don't even know they're in yet. Change number 3, taxation thresholds that haven't moved in decades. Up to 85% of Social Security benefits can be subject to federal income tax, a rule that has not been inflation adjusted since 1993. As COLA increases push benefit amounts higher, more retirees are being pushed above the provisional income threshold that triggers taxation. What looks like a benefit increase on paper can become a tax liability in practice. The May 1st implementation tightens this further through new IRS coordination guidance. Change number 4, spousal and survivor benefit rule updates. Changes to how spousal benefits interact with individual work records, particularly for women who took career breaks to raise children, are shifting the calculation methodology that determines lifetime survivor payouts. For widows, widowers, and divorced spouses, understanding the new rules before claiming is not optional. Claiming under the old assumptions could permanently lock in a lower benefit. The warnings issued by senior advocacy organizations this month were not routine. They were not symbolic. They were not simply lobbying boilerplate. They were urgent. Financial planner after financial planner described the May 1st changes as poorly communicated, technically complex, and, perhaps most critically, irreversible once a benefits claim is filed under the new rules. That last point cannot be overstated. Social Security, claiming decisions, particularly around spousal benefits and survivor rules, are largely permanent. A retiree who claims under a misunderstanding of the new rules cannot simply unclaim and start over without significant financial penalty. Retirement specialists speaking with financial media this month described the window before May 1st as a critical correction period, the last realistic opportunity for affected seniors to consult with a benefits counselor, revisit their claiming strategy, and avoid locking in a permanent miscalculation. Here is what we know. Within weeks of these changes being confirmed, the volume of calls to Social Security field offices increased dramatically. These weren't routine benefit inquiries. These were Americans realizing, sometimes for the first time, that the retirement income math they had been using was built on rules that no longer applied. Tonight, benefit analysts have confirmed that the administrative changes coming May 1st affect 4 distinct populations, not just one. Population 1, early claimers between age 62 and full retirement age. These recipients face the revised earnings limit. Any senior in this group who has a part-time job, consulting income, or freelance earnings that they have not run through the new 2025 threshold calculation may be in for a withheld check. The SSA does not send a warning before withholding. They withhold, then they reconcile. By then, the damage to monthly cash flow has already happened. Population 2, married couples with one high earner and one lower earning or non-working spouse. The spousal benefit rule changes affect how the lower earning spouse's benefit is calculated when the higher earner delays claiming. The coordination between these two claiming decisions has become more complex. Couples who planned their strategy even 2 years ago may be operating on outdated assumptions. The difference over a 20-year retirement can exceed $60,000 in cumulative benefits. Population 3, widows and widowers considering survivor benefit claims. The timing rules for switching between a survivor benefit and your own earned benefit, a strategy that can maximize lifetime income, have been clarified in ways that narrow the window for optimization. Getting this wrong, particularly for women with interrupted work histories, means permanently foregoing income that was rightfully earned. Population 4, working seniors who expect a benefit increase but haven't accounted for Medicare deductions. The Medicare Part B premium adjustment means the raise that a 3.2% COLA should deliver is, for many recipients, invisible. It is absorbed entirely by the premium increase before it reaches the recipient's bank account. Seniors who built their 2025 budget around an expected income increase may need to revise that budget immediately. And here's where the story becomes even more consequential. Policy researchers now believe that the SSA's latest administrative changes were designed in part to test the financial resilience of retirees after a period of elevated inflation, a period during which many seniors drew down savings or took on debt to manage rising costs. The SSA wanted to see, in aggregate, whether Social Security dependent households could absorb a benefit-neutral or benefit-reduced adjustment without systemic distress. But instead of systemic distress, what has emerged is individual distress, scattered, quiet, and largely invisible to the macro data. Seniors who are too proud to ask for help. Retirees who don't know the right questions to ask. Older Americans who trust that the government's benefit payments are correct and never audit their own statements. Financial counselors speaking with retirement publications under anonymity describe the SSA's communication strategy as technically compliant but practically insufficient. That is polite language for, the rules changed, the notices were sent, but the notices were written for compliance officers, not for 75-year-old recipients. America's seniors proved over the past 2 years that they are resilient. They absorbed record inflation. They managed rising healthcare costs. They did it without complaint and without fanfare. But resilience has a limit. And the May 1 changes arrive at a moment when that limit has already been tested. As new reporting has continued to emerge, we've learned more about the scale of the impact. Approximately 40% of Social Security recipients are married couples in whom the spousal benefit calculation change will have at least some measurable effect on lifetime income projections. Over 3 million seniors between age 62 and full retirement age are currently working and subject to the revised earnings limit, many of whom have not been notified that the threshold has moved. Women represent nearly 60% of Social Security recipients over age 65 and are disproportionately affected by the survivor benefit rule changes, given longer life expectancy and higher rates of workforce interruption. Medicare Part B premiums for 2025 increased by more than the average expected net benefit gain for recipients in mid-range income brackets, meaning the COLA, for those seniors, is functionally zero. This wasn't just an administrative update. This wasn't just a routine regulatory adjustment. This was a structural recalibration of America's most relied-upon retirement income system, and that recalibration is landing on May 1st, whether seniors are ready or not. Remember, federal pension reformers once thought these kinds of technical adjustments could be made without meaningful public impact. They thought the benefit amounts were robust enough to absorb premium increases. They thought that COLA increases, however modest, would always outpace Medicare cost growth. But tonight, the data tells the opposite story. Medicare premiums have consumed COLA gains in 14 of the last 20 years. Benefits for non-working spouses have eroded as inflation has outpaced the fixed calculation thresholds. And the taxation rules written in 1983 and last updated in 1993 have quietly transferred billions of benefit dollars back to the Treasury as inflation pushed more retirees above the threshold. What makes this moment so significant and so urgent is that these May 1st changes arrive at a time when Congress is under competing pressures from every direction. Fiscal hawks want benefit reductions to address the Social Security Trust Fund's projected shortfall. Advocacy groups want benefit expansions and tax threshold updates. Healthcare lobbyists want Medicare premium flexibility protected. Retiree organizations want COLA calculations updated to use a senior-specific inflation index. And seniors themselves are navigating all of this while simultaneously managing inflation-adjusted fixed incomes, rising healthcare needs, and the simple reality that most Americans retire with far less savings than recommended. When a program as critical as Social Security shifts its technical rules at a moment of this much financial vulnerability for its recipients, those changes are not neutral. They land differently, they hurt differently, and they demand a response that is not passive. Statements from the Social Security Administration, now being distributed through official channels, were designed to signal that the SSA believes these changes are consistent with long-standing statutory requirements. Officials said plainly that the adjustments reflect current statutory authority and regulatory guidance. That is bureaucratic language for, we are doing what the law allows us to do, and the law hasn't changed. That may be true as a legal matter. It does not make it less disruptive as a practical matter for the 70 million Americans who depend on these benefits. You do not usually hear the level of concern from retirement planning professionals that we are hearing this month unless something real and consequential is at stake. Meanwhile, senior advocacy organizations have addressed their members directly in urgent communications this month. One leading organization said, "Every retiree should review their benefit statement before May 1st and compare it against the new earnings limit and Medicare premium tables." Another said, "If you are within 5 years of claiming, or if you have already claimed and have a working spouse or surviving partner, these rule changes require an immediate conversation with a benefits counselor." And a third said, "Do not assume your current benefit calculation is correct under the new rules. Assumption is the most expensive word in retirement planning. These are not rhetorical warnings." These are statements from organizations that understand, perhaps better than anyone, just how high the stakes have become for America's retirees. Here's what makes the situation even more concerning. The May 1st changes were not isolated. Alongside the 4 administrative shifts hitting Social Security, Medicare Advantage plan structures in several major markets have also been renegotiated, affecting prescription drug coverage coordination with Social Security income thresholds. State-level benefit programs tied to federal Social Security eligibility formulas in more than a dozen states will also recalibrate on or shortly after May 1st. IRS coordination rules for tax year 2025 have updated the provisional income thresholds used to determine the taxable percentage of Social Security benefits, creating compounding complexity for seniors filing jointly. All of this is happening within the same 30-day window. When multiple interconnected systems update simultaneously, the compounding effect for individual seniors can be far larger than any single change in isolation. Benefits analysts are now considering several possible outcomes as May 1st arrives. One is that a significant number of affected seniors will simply absorb lower net benefits without realizing the structural cause, attributing it to general inflation or Medicare costs rather than understanding it as a claiming or calculation error they could potentially address. Another is that the volume of benefit correction requests and formal appeals to the SSA will increase sharply in the second and third quarters of 2025, as retirees and their advisors identify discrepancies. A third possibility, the one worrying advocates the most, is that a meaningful number of seniors will make permanent claiming decisions before May 1st under the mistaken belief that the old rules still apply and lock in lower lifetime benefits that cannot be corrected after the fact. But today, informed retirees can still take that last possibility off the table. They can review their statements, they can call their local SSA office, they can consult a benefits counselor, they can compare their current strategy against the new rules. That window is open. It closes May 1st. What we're watching now is a test of preparation. The Social Security Administration wants to see whether its administrative modernization can proceed without disrupting the financial stability of its recipients. America's retirees want to show, and deserve to show, that they have the information and the access they need to protect their benefits. Advocates want to prevent a wave of permanent claiming errors. And Congress, watching from the sidelines, wants to avoid a political backlash from 70 million voters who feel blindsided by a system they spent decades paying into. Tonight, we've heard from financial planners who are now actively working through benefit recalculations with clients in the affected categories. They say the most urgent cases involve married couples where one spouse is still working and one has already claimed, the intersection of the earnings limit change and the spousal benefit update creates a compounded impact. They say the survivor benefit changes are particularly underappreciated and underreported in mainstream coverage of the May 1st deadline. And they say the SSA's decision to implement multiple changes simultaneously, rather than staggering them, is likely part of a broader administrative consolidation effort intended to modernize the benefits infrastructure. But seniors are not waiting for the consolidation to be explained. In fact, the most proactive retirees are treating this moment as a full audit of their benefit strategy, reviewing every assumption, every number, and every claim date against the new rules. Their response this month, deliberate, informed, and forward-looking, sends a message to the system that they are not passive recipients. They are engaged participants, and they will hold the system accountable for the clarity and accuracy it owes them. As May 1st approaches, we expect more details to emerge about the full scope of what these changes mean for different benefit categories and income levels. But what we do know is that preparation, right now, is timely. It allows seniors to claim correctly rather than claim and correct. It allows families to optimize lifetime income rather than discover the optimization window has closed. And it allows every American who paid into this system for decades to receive every dollar they have earned. What happens next will depend on what individual retirees do in the days remaining before May 1st. If they review, verify, and consult, this moment will be remembered as the deadline that woke people up in time. If they delay, advocates and planners have already shown they are ready to help, but the window for proactive decisions is closing. They have shown they are ready to respond. The question is whether you are ready to act. And tonight, for the first time in years, the Social Security system appears to be shifting beneath the feet of the people who depend on it most. Washington's policy apparatus is quiet on the details, too quiet. And when the bureaucratic machinery is quiet right before a major implementation deadline, it means adjustments are already in motion, and it is up to you to move first. because tonight, every retiree is learning something they should have been told long ago. The rules of your retirement can change, and often do. The information to protect yourself exists, but you have to seek it, and the window to act is always shorter than you expect. This story is far from over, but tonight, one thing is clear. May 1st is not a rumor. It is not speculation. It is a deadline. Every change is real. Every dollar is at stake. And we will be here, watching every detail as the next phase of America's retirement security story unfolds.